Good afternoon. My name is Marla McGuinness, and I will be your moderator for today's wildfire media availability. Joining us today is the Honourable Tim Houston, Premier of the Province of Nova Scotia, Halifax Regional Municipality Mayor Mike Savage. We're also joined by Scott Tingley, Manager of Forest Protection with the Department of Natural Resources and Renewable. And here to also take questions, we have Erica Fleck, Director of Emergency Management for Halifax Regional Municipality. We also have the Honourable John Lohr, Minister of the Emergency Management Office, and the Honourable Tory Rushton, Minister of Natural Resources and Renewable. We'll start with opening remarks, first with the Honourable Tim Houston, and then we'll move on to Mayor Savage and Scott Tingley. Thank you.
Thank you, Marla. Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Mayor, ministers, team, thanks for joining us here today. We have a serious situation in this province, a couple serious situations for sure, and we're definitely a province that is on edge right now. Whether you are in a community that's under an evacuation order or close to one, close enough to see the smoke, you can see the smoke for great distances. Whether in one of those situations or not, you probably know a Nova Scotian who is impacted by this, or you could just be a human being that is seeing the images and feeling those emotions. It's a serious situation. The fires around the province are leaving a mark on our province. And as the fires, two significant fires we'll talk about today, but as the fires continue to make their path across the province, one thing that we know is our main concern is fighting those fires. And here in Nova Scotia, we have some of the best firefighting teams. We have some of the best resources possible deployed to fight these fires, and they're doing the hard work to fight these fires. So right now I'm here in Dartmouth at our provincial EMO center, and I will tell those people that are not in this area, from this area, you can see the smoke and understand the size of these fires that are happening. Like many of you that are listening today, I've seen the images, I've seen the videos, and I've seen the reality of what's happening, the damage that's being caused, and it's very scary. It's very scary for sure. But I want you to know that we are doing everything possible as a province, as a municipality, as a country to fight these fires and to keep people safe. Every resource at our collective disposal is being deployed to fight these fires. So please know that everyone you will hear from today and everyone who is actively engaged in fighting these fires is completely dedicated to working as quickly as possible, as humanly possible, to get those that have been displaced from their homes back to their homes and to get these fires extinguished. So certainly the heaviest impacts we're seeing right now are in the Shelburne County area. It's a massive fire in Shelburne County, and of course in the Tantallon area as well. I'm personally hearing from people that I know who have lost their homes, and I know many Nova Scotians will be also hearing from people that they personally know who have lost property in these fires. So we're in constant contact with the fire crews and the natural resources teams, and they're working hard out there. They're giving it their all to knock back these fires, and the safety of these workers is a top priority, and I want to thank everyone who is working so hard and doing the best that they can to get things back to normal as quickly as possible. Although with the weather we're having, the weather is not cooperating right now. We're going to need some help from the weather, and it will take time for sure. But to help speed up the efforts of fighting these fires, we have help here in the form of water bombers. Right now, water bombers on site from Newfoundland. We've had some help from New Brunswick as well. I want to thank Premiers Fury and Higgs for their support, and I know there's more help coming from PEI as well. So thank you to Premier King and other premiers in other areas of the country, and the federal government are stepping up as well. We will take and use whatever resources we can possibly made available. We need them here. There are currently comfort centers open in affected areas. There are comfort centers in HRM and there's at least one comfort center in Shelburne County. For the exact locations and the operating hours for those comfort centers, please check novascotia.ca/alerts, novascotia.ca/alerts for the most up-to-date information. Now I want to speak directly to those who have been impacted by this fire. We can only imagine the fear that you're feeling, the uncertainty you're feeling about when you will be able to return to your home, what you may be returning to, and we know that the fear must be just completely unimaginable. So, but know that the Blue Noser spirit is alive and well in this province, and your friends and neighbors will be there to support you in every way that they can. So I know that there's in also the confusion about where you'll stay. You don't have access to your kitchen and your provisions and your food. I know all that is just adding another layer of concern and fear. So I want to tell you that today, as a province, as a first step to try to ease some of the financial stress in some small way that you're feeling, the province is announcing that there will be immediate support available for those households in evacuated areas of up to $500. We're going to work with the Red Cross to make that funding available to you as soon as possible. I'm truly sorry as your Premier for what you're going through. Your province is truly sorry for what you're going through, and we will be there to support you in any way we possibly can as a province. We also know that those who are operating comfort centers are under pressure and stress to do what they can to support the people who are using those comfort centers. So we'll look for ways to support those running the comfort centers as well. And finally, for our first responders, our volunteer firefighters who are coming from across the province to help, we know that the pressure you're feeling as well in so many ways, but yet you're stepping up yet again to help our communities. So the province will put forward some programs that will try to provide some financial support to our volunteer firefighters who are traveling across the province to help another area. We'll look for ways to support those volunteer firefighters with mileage, and also the departments themselves who are pushing gear out around the province. That's not without a cost as well. So as a province, we'll be there for those volunteer fire departments and volunteer firefighters who are stepping up to help those communities. We'll continue to look for more ways to support Nova Scotians as the days unfold before us. But look, we know the pressure that's being felt across the province. We appreciate the work of everyone out there who's doing everything they can to protect property, but most of all to protect human life. So thank you for everything you're doing. Also, Minister Rushton, be prepared to speak further to it, but there's a provincial-wide burn ban now in place. The burn ban is province-wide, no burning in Nova Scotia. So far this fire season has been an incredibly busy fire season. We've had 183 fires during this early part of the fire season, up to 12 yesterday. Most of those fires, if not all of those fires, would have been started in some way, shape, or form by human activity. So no burning in the province. We have to do what we can to protect the scarce resources that we have and allow them to fight the fires that are happening right now. So we will get through this. We will get through this together. Do what you can to support your friends and neighbors. Do what you can to support those in need. That's what Nova Scotians do each and every time they're asked to step up. They do step up. And I have great faith in the Nova Scotian spirit, the Blue Noser spirit, to get us through here, this situation as well. So stay safe, everyone, and thank you for your efforts to fight these fires. I'll turn it over now to Mayor Savage.
Thank you, Premier, Ministers, and DNR, the Director of Emergency Management for the Halifax region, Erica Fleck, ladies and gentlemen. We are in an unprecedented fire response that has displaced more than 16,000 residents of our community. Now, we have not expanded the perimeter since yesterday, which is some hope that perhaps this situation has stabilized, but it is a dangerous situation. So far, we have been fortunate in that there have not been reports of injuries or loss of life, but that doesn't mean that there aren't people who've been impacted significantly. A number of homes have been lost. While we're not prepared to put a number on it, many residents will be dealing with significant losses and will need our care and support in the days ahead. This is a very challenging situation for everybody within the evacuation zone and for others who are in the vicinity and wondering if their neighborhood and their homes would be next. Do not re-enter the evacuation zone. Please allow emergency responders to do their job and to focus on fighting the fire. We are saying to people to pay attention to official channels, and some people need to be prepared to leave on very short notice. Think about your plan for pets, for medications, insurance, and identification documents that you might need, and you might need to have at least 72 hours minimum supplies. The fire situation continues to be serious, and it is hard to predict. It is a wind-driven fire. Our fire service, along with the Department of Natural Resources, is working exceptionally hard against challenging conditions, and we owe them a great debt of gratitude. Together, they have protected schools, seniors' facilities, and scores of homes. Right now, as an example of what resource we have in Halifax Regional and Fire, we have 15 tankers, 8 engines, 2 DND brush units, 6 utilities out fighting this fire. It's a rapidly changing situation, and we are getting accurate information out as quickly as possible. We have evacuation centers set up 24 hours at the Canada Games Centre, and we have daytime comfort centers at Beaverbank-Kinsack Community Centre and Black Point. We've staffed up to 311 to respond to questions from residents, and we ask, if you've been evacuated, to register with 311 so we know where you are. I want to just acknowledge this is a terrible circumstance, but the positive aspect of this is how well emergency management is organized in this province and here from this facility in Dartmouth. Erica Fleck and others, our fire chief, police are all in this building, provincial officials are in this building. Everybody is pulling together to fight this fire. I want to thank the Premier, and I want to thank Minister Laura. Last night when we were contemplating declaring a state of local emergency, I called Minister Laura, caught him in the car, and his response immediately was, Mr. Mayor, whatever you need, we will be there with you. The Premier called, was the same message. I spoke last night to Bill Blair, I spoke today to Prime Minister Trudeau, and we've been assured of the support in whatever is needed in the days ahead. I want to thank you. I want to extend my thoughts to those who are impacted, to those who've been evacuated, to those who aren't sure what the next days will bring. I want to thank the first responders who are on the line in very dangerous circumstances. I want to thank also volunteer firefighters from around the province who've come to help. And just to say to you that this is the spirit of Nova Scotia. This is the spirit that brought us through COVID and many other tough circumstances in recent years. And it's the spirit that will carry us forward. Thanks to everybody who is volunteering, to everybody who's putting time into this. And if you're wondering what you can do, you can think about those folks and think about what you might be able to do to help people who are living in such an uncertain time as a result of these fires. Thank you very much. And I will, please, DNR.
Thanks very much, Mayor and Premier. So I'm here to give an update from the Department of Natural Resources Renewables on the wildfire situation in the province. And we'll speak, of course, to the couple of priority fires that we got going on. So we've had 183 total fires to date in the province. Currently, we have 8 active fires around the province, and 2 of which are out of control, which are 2 priority fires. The fire in Tantallon is still estimated about 788 hectares. The one kind of good news story that we're hearing so far from officials at the site, as the mayor indicated, there's been minimal growth on that fire in terms of wildland fire activity. So that is a glimmer of hope. We've got lots of Department of Natural Resources staff, volunteer and municipal fire resources, lots of emergency responders, as well as we have one of those Newfoundland CL-415 water bombers are working that fire, and so they're working on priority spots that may be popping up through the day. In Barrington, a little different story, a very challenging day again. The last estimate on that fire was that it was at 6,270 hectares, but we do expect significant growth on that fire today. And even as of 2:30, reports from our officials was they were recommending additional evacuations, but I'd defer anyone to the local municipal emergency officials and the RCMP for specific information on those evacuations, but it's an ongoing and evolving situation down there. So we have all of our department helicopters are out working on these fires. And in addition, we've procured as many local private operators of helicopters that we can, so they're out working on these fires as well. And we also have one of the Newfoundland CL-415 water bombers working in Barrington. We have incident management teams in place on both fires to help organize and lead the ground firefighters. We can assure you it's all hands on deck at Department of Natural Resources, as I'm sure it is with all emergency services. In addition to the staff we've got committed to active fires, we also have staff supporting those fires back at the offices and also ready for new starts. So as the Premier had indicated, our resources are stretched and limited, so we are prioritizing where we send resources. And would like to give an update. As a lot of people are probably aware, we did send a 20-person Department of Natural Resources crew out to the Northwest Territories last week. So we have recalled that crew. So the plans are in place, trying to get them back within the next couple days. And they'll be home to help us out. We've had reports that they're in good spirits, but they're certainly wishing they could be here and helping out. So they'll be here soon. I'd like to also let everyone know as Premier had indicated, we've reached far and wide, through our national and international partners to see what else is available for resources. We do have additional crews coming in from both PEI and Newfoundland within hopefully the next 24 to 48 hours, and as well as there's plans in the works to get an additional CL-415 from Newfoundland.
Premier and Mayor. Oh, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, pardon me. I wanted to acknowledge my council colleagues who have been involved in this since last night. We were on the call last night when we were determining to call a local state of emergency. They're all doing whatever they can to help. And I particularly want to acknowledge Pam Lovelace, who is the councillor for the area. She will not be going to her home tonight. She will be seeking refuge like many others, and she's been working hard on behalf of her citizens. So I thank my council colleagues for their dedication and understanding. Premier.
We'll now take questions from media in the room. To start with, please identify who your question is for so we can make sure they get to the podium. And we do have a number of media registered on Zoom as well. So we'll start in the room and then we'll move to Zoom. Go ahead.
Can you give us the number of how many homes have been burned and why not?
Yeah, so the priority is on fighting the fire for sure. So that's where the resources are totally allocated to kind of containing the fires. We have two significant fires that are out of control in this province. We have, as Scott mentioned, other fires in the province that are under control or being contained, but the two that are out of control are a big concern, and that's where the resources are being deployed. So in the process of some of the air cover that's happening from the helicopters and from the water bombers, during that process some of the pilots would observe some things, but oftentimes they can't because the visibility is not the greatest because of the smoke. So we do know for sure that a number of structures are damaged and some are completely lost. And it is a concern, and it will be a priority to kind of inform people as we can get that information. But right now, with the intensity of these fires, the resources are completely focused on tamping them back, but also the safety of our firefighters is the number one priority. So there's been significant structural damage in the areas of these two fires, the one in Tantallon and also the fire in Shelburne County, which is just a massive, massive fire. But good teams are working on it. Professional firefighting teams are working on it. And I think that the thing to the professionalism of the responders of these fires, when you think about 183 fires during this fire season alone, I think that's a number that would shock many Nova Scotians. In a normal fire season, we would normally have 140 to 150,000, I think. Also a number that would shock many Nova Scotians, because oftentimes the response is so quick and swift that it can contain these fires rather quickly. We have two that are uncontained right now. We're very concerned about the structural damage, but the priority right now is getting these fires under control and keeping people safe.
Premier, with respect, this sounds a lot like what happened after Porter-Pig with the lack of information forthcoming. Surely you can give us a ballpark. Is it 50 houses? Is it 100 houses? Give us some information.
It's dozens of structures.
I guess this question's for Mayor Savage or the municipal side of things. How can we ensure communications are clear? The mapping inconsistencies were noted very clearly. The list of evacuated areas versus the original maps that were coming out were showing two different stories. Obviously, communications is critical. Can you just kind of talk us through that and what's being done to ensure clear communication?
Yeah, I want to commend our comms folks who have been here since, well, probably 24 hours now or close to that. I was here last night when decisions were being made as to what would be evacuated. These are big decisions, and Erica was very involved in making those decisions. It's a very fast-moving situation. I did a video a couple of hours ago showing people where the map is of the area that has been evacuated, but also the area of the local state of emergency, which perimeters that to tell people that they have to move as quickly as possible. So I think that the information we're getting out, considering the circumstances and how dynamic it is, I think our folks are doing an awful lot of work to make sure that people have the information that they need.
On the provincial side of things, I guess I just wonder, how can people find out what's happening with their homes? Obviously, those who are forced to leave, that's got to be top of mind. What can folks do to get that communication? What's the message there?
Yeah, I think the evacuation orders, I think it would be fair to say that those evacuation orders, I expect they'll be in place for days, just so people would know that. This is going to take, it's going to take some period of time to get these fires under control so people can safely return back to their homes. We know this is incredibly stressful for people, to not knowing what they may be returning to, and certainly not knowing when they can return. So we fully appreciate and how stressful that is. The most up-to-date information for people, for those that have access to the internet, would be at novascotia.ca /alerts page. There'll be information continue. That website will continue to evolve. We'll try to get the most up-to-date information to people there. But this is a time when we need to pull together as Nova Scotians, as communities, to also make sure that we're sharing information. It's not. There's a number of communities impacted. And there'll be people all around the province that have a close connection to somebody who's directly in one of those impacted communities, and we just do what you can to support those people and offer the help that you can, and still maintain your own safety. So we'll get through this. It's going to take time, and it will require some patience, but we will get through this. The amount of resources that are being deployed at this towards these two fires, the professionalism of those people who are out there right now in incredibly stressful circumstances, doing what they can to fight the fires, to protect people and protect property. they're putting everything they have into this. So we'll do our best to get the information out there to people. We just ask for some cooperation in that process as we distribute information in a very, very fast. The situation is evolving very fast. Just in the past 24 hours, the growth of these two fires is pretty breathtaking. So it's happening fast. And the team, the resources, the people that are focused on fighting these fires are doing everything they can to get them under control.
Mayor Savage, do you have any thoughts on the development process of the areas in this sort of wildland urban interface, and could that have been a contributing factor? People are complaining about some of the subdivisions only having one or two exits, and they were having problems exiting, fleeing their homes. Can you speak to that?
Well, in every evacuation, there is concern and panic, and that's just a fact, and it's understandable, and you don't very often see a calm exiting of communities. We need to make sure as we build our communities that they are built with environmental standards in mind and also the safety in mind. So, there's a lot of development in the areas that have been affected. There could have been a lot more. And we need to make sure that there is egress from communities, more than one. And we need to make sure that that there is an ability for things like emergency vehicles to get through as well. And so that's always going to be a challenge in development. It always has been and it always will be.
Okay, we do have a number of questions on the phone, so we'll go there now. We'll start with Brian Flynn with All Nova Scotia. Go ahead, Brian.
Hi, I'm not sure who this question would be to, but I see that a number of schools were dismissed today early. Some of them a great distance away from the fire. I'm just wondering if anyone can speak to why schools in places like Fairview and Rockingham were dismissed.
Yeah, thanks for the question. We can probably the Minister of Education be a good person to speak to on that. But I will say that in general, we're recognizing that the impact on families is very broad ranging, and certainly we would have just because of the nature of our province and certainly the nature of the city, you would have a number of people who are maybe living in an evacuation area, but teaching or working in an educational facility in close proximity, but maybe not in the evacuated area. So I think what we're trying to do is just have show some compassion in keeping people safe in how things function in the evacuated areas for sure, but in the broader community, just as we get through this situation that we're facing right now. So, Minister of Education would be able to speak to certain schools, but I would definitely say that as Premier, it's been my direction that we use some common sense in what we're asking of people in those close communities. It may not be directly in the evacuation zone, may not be in the path of a fire, but certainly have connections to it through social connections and work connections.
Thank you, Premier. Brian, do you have a follow-up question?
I do, and Premier, I guess this one is more for you. I gather from what we've learned over the last few hours that Nova Scotia doesn't have a water bomber of its own. I'm just wondering if that's correct, and if it is correct, why it is. Did that make any difference? Would it have made a difference if we had one on hand?
No, we have helicopter capacity, and the helicopters are, well, I guess you can imagine with 183 fires so far this fire season. There's been a lot of success in tamping back fires that are starting around the province. 183 around the province. We have 2 that are out of control, 2 significant ones right now, but right even as we speak, a number that are under control or being contained. So I think the air capacity that we have through the helicopters, we will continue to look at that. But also the bomber capacity, I believe Newfoundland has 4 or 5, New Brunswick has some. and we work very closely with our neighboring provinces. But we're happy to look at what investments might be required in terms of these fires are being fueled by wind. That's what's happening. They're very fast moving, very dry conditions, very windy conditions. And even when you think about deploying the water bombers, very windy conditions, their effectiveness and the level of additional risk and danger that you take in deploying them, these are constant factors. So were they a factor in the speed of these fires? The kind of the investigation will show that, but I would just say to Nova Scotians, there are significant resources for fighting fires in this province, and they do a pretty darn good job. But sometimes the circumstances of Mother Nature definitely impede the ability.
Okay, next we'll go to Keith Doucette with the Canadian Press. Go ahead, Keith.
Keith is not up, but Mike Tutton can put some questions if you like.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I'm not sure if this is for Mr. Tingley or from, but wind speed and its direction as well as rainfall. The Premier just alluded to this, but are they out of the norm significantly from historic norms? What is occurring?
I didn't quite, you kind of broke up a little bit there, but I believe the question is about wind speeds and possibly whether we're seeing abnormal wind right now. I don't know, maybe Scott, you want to speak to that, right?
Yeah, I think as I understood the question, are the weather conditions and the a factor in what we're facing, and I would say that's our main challenge. It's been an extraordinary dry spring. From what I understand, way below average for rainfall. So the forests are dry. And yesterday was extremely windy. Down in Barrington, we've been fighting hot, dry, windy conditions since Friday. And so that is the main contributing factor to why these fires are growing the way they are. So, yeah.
Michael, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I do. Just to be clear for Mr. Tingley, if he wants to say anything more, my question was whether it's out of historical significantly. That was the question. But I have a follow-up as well. Do you want to add something, or that tends to remain the same?
I guess I'd reiterate in terms of whether it's abnormal. Yeah, I'd say it's an abnormally dry spring. I don't think that the wind itself was abnormal. We get windy days. I don't think it was anything that extraordinary that way. It's just the combination of the dry condition plus the wind. The low humidity also is a huge factor. So all that came into play, basically since Friday, and that's where we've kind of landed here today with these large fires. So.
Thank you, Scott. Next, we'll go to CBC's Blair Rhodes. Go ahead, Blair.
Follow-up.
Michael wants his follow-up.
Michael, sorry, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you. There's two numbers being floated around. Fire department's talking about 14,000 people being evacuated, and the mayor is talking about 16,000. So perhaps the mayor or somebody could explain what is the correct number of evacuees.
I might ask Erica Fleck if she wants to answer that, the Director of Emergency Management for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. The number that we're using right now is 16,429 plus change, and that's based on the StatsCan data that comes out of our GIS system. So that is the most accurate and up-to-date that we have.
Thank you, Erica. Okay.
Just if I may, just on that, just Michael, that would be the Tantallon fire, the HRM evacuations. The situation in Shelburne, this is a significant fire. It's a fast-moving fire. Evacuation areas have been extended throughout Shelburne County. I believe Barrington as well, and even beyond now. So the number of evacuations across the province would be significantly higher than 16,000 when you add in the Shelburne fire situation. So, and again, we just say to people, you know, we know how stressful it is to be asked to leave your home and not know when you're going to be able to return and not know what you might be returning to whenever it is you return. It's incredibly stressful. But you must respect the evacuation order. It's for your safety, and please stay away from evacuated areas to allow the crews to fight these fires in a safe manner.
Thank you. Now we'll go to CBC's Blair Rhodes. Go ahead, Blair.
Yeah, we've heard from some evacuees that they weren't given sufficient notice, that they felt very rushed and panicky. I was wondering if you could speak to that.
I will, and then maybe I'll ask Mayor Savage to add. But you know, I can't even really imagine. It's a beautiful sunny Sunday afternoon in Nova Scotia, and you're probably out in the yard, maybe with your family or with your pets, or you're working and you're just having a beautiful day. And then somebody comes along and says there's a fire, you're going to have to leave, and you're going to have to leave quickly. I can't even imagine what amount of time could properly prepare somebody emotionally for that. These evacuation orders are certainly not taken lightly. The team that makes those decisions considers a lot of factors, and every one of those factors is driven by one goal, and that's the safety of Nova Scotians. So we know the evacuation orders are stressful. We know they're tough. They're extremely tough for the people that are making them. They're very tough for the people who are on the ground communicating it, knocking on doors and enforcing the evacuation orders. There's nothing easy about an evacuation order, and I don't know that there would ever be an evacuation order that would be smooth. It's just the nature of what's happening there. So, you know, we know there's going to be a lot of work to do to support these families, and that's our focus, is on supporting families, keeping people safe and fighting these fires.
Blair, do you have a follow-up question?
Can I just speak to that?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mayor.
It's a good question, but I want to go back to being in the EOC last night with Erica and with all the reports that were coming in with our fire department officials, our EMO officials, with police, with RCMP, with folks from the province. This was a very dynamic situation. There just simply wasn't a lot of time. And I can tell you that there will be people, many people I hope, who will go back to their houses and say, why did I need to evacuate? I hope that's what happens. And I think in a lot of cases it might, but when you're sitting in the EOC and you hear reports coming in of a fire that jumped a lake, that's a big, fast-moving piece of work. And so we're going to be careful. In fact, Erica last night at one point said, you know, no one's going to go to bed knowing that there are people who could be evacuated but haven't been, who might be in danger. So we have to err on the side of caution. You have to move quickly, and that's the nature of emergency management.
Blair, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, you announced a total ban on fires. Has there been any consideration given to a total ban on travel in woodlands?
Thank you, Blair, for that question. It's something that we've been discussing, but as we move forward and talk with the activity that's going on in the western area, that is certainly the route where the extreme fire weather is taking place. Most of the activity that people were talking about was the forestry activity. Most of those activities have already taken over into the nighttime shifts, if you will. So there's no daytime shifts in the western area. But that is an ongoing conversation that the department is having as of about an hour ago before we left the Shubenacadie Fire Command Center. So we are having those conversations. We did put in place the fire ban throughout the whole province of Nova Scotia for the time being. That will expand into June 25th. We'll either look at it on a weekly basis or reevaluate and extend it if need be in June 25th. But we believe we've taken all the measures necessary right now. And there's really no indication that of what these causes of fires have been. I guess I would ask, allow the time for the activity to fight the fire right now, and we are actively investigating the fires that have been extinguished.
Next, we'll go to Heidi Petracek with CTV. Go ahead, Heidi.
Sorry, had to unmute. I do want to talk about burn bans and just some thought that perhaps a burn ban for the province should have been enacted sooner in the weekend, considering the hot, dry conditions.
Yeah, go ahead, Minister Rushton.
Yes, thank you for that question. There's been conversation, a few weeks ago we had the fire in Digby and then we had some rain in the area. So these conversations are ongoing on a regular basis about the burn ban. But having said that, the burn map is on the website every day at 2 o'clock. And if you look, the western area has actually been in a burn ban situation for quite some time. The exact date, I can't remember when it turned red, but the extreme burn ban has been there for quite some time. There is a difference between campsites, provincial campsites that are in a controlled campfire atmosphere. That's what we actually closed as well, on top of the regular updates of the mapping every day at 2 o'clock. But as of right now, there's no burning anywhere in the province of Nova Scotia. We need our resources to combat the circumstances that we have right now in the province with 8 active fires going on. We need those resources there. We can't afford to be pulling resources away from there from another fire that may be caused by campfire. So we do evaluate those on a daily basis.
Heidi, do you have a follow-up question?
I do. This one would be likely for Ms. Fleck, but I am wondering about communications and mapping. You know, the evacuation area map evolved a couple times. It had an error the first time. There's no street names on it. It's not like, I'm just trying to imagine someone who just moved here or something. They're not familiar with all these neighborhood areas. Is there any way to improve mapping so that it can be more specific, accurate in a short amount of time?
Thank you very much for the question. So as the Mayor and both the Premier spoke to, it's an evolving situation that moved very, very quickly yesterday and late into last night. So we do have very detailed mapping with street names by street numbers on houses, but to get that information, because it's such a large area, onto a PDF that we can put online, pardon me, is a bit challenging. But we're certainly working through with our corporate communications folks, hourly to try to get, better information out there for residents.
Next, we'll go to Suzanne Lapointe with Global. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Hi, my question is for Scott Tingley from Natural Resources and Renewables. Is there any indication as to what caused these fires?
Specific causes, so the fires are under investigation. It's probably safe to say they've all been human caused. We haven't had any reports of lightning in the area. So it's human activity that's causing them, but we don't have any detailed information. They're all under investigation.
I also want to know, as my follow-up, it's also for you, Mr. Tingley. The forecast over the next couple days, do you have any indication of that and what impacts you expect that will have?
The forecast is not favorable, so we have dry weather forecast for the week, no significant rain, and still some wind. So like I said earlier, favorable reports coming back from the fire in Tantallon that there hasn't been significant wildland fire growth. Obviously, the impacts to the community are enormous, but it is encouraging that we don't have growth on that one, and we hope crews can maintain through the week. We expect we're going to continue to realize challenges in Shelburne, down in Barrington, and that'll be an ongoing assessment based on what happens with the various fires, where we're going to prioritize resources, and as we start getting additional incoming resources, that's all going to be that's the equation. Where are they going to be most effective and most needed? So, but yes, a tough week ahead yet.
Okay, next we'll go to Evan Taylor with Radio ABL. Go ahead, Evan.
I think this will be for the Premier. We've received a fair amount of reports of people in our area having issues with either their internet service provider or with cell phone coverage. I'm wondering if that's an issue that's been discussed in the Emergency Management Office, and if you guys are aware of network issues and people struggling to get the important information that you guys are getting out there.
Yeah, thanks for that important question. And we know that certain areas, the power has been shut off to certain areas for safety, for those fighting the fires and those evacuating. So we know that that's the case. the telecommunications companies are here in the command center here today. You know, most of what the initial reports from them were that most of their infrastructure was intact, which is a good thing. But no doubt there'll be some outages, and that's a concern. But we'll have to work through that as a province.
Evan, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, my follow-up was just he sort of answered it. That are the ISPs and those people present, and they are there. So just guess clarification for who do you have there, and who talking about networks? Do you have guys from Bell, Eastlink, and is everyone there?
Yeah. The Bell representatives are here. The TELUS and Eastlink, is my understanding, are all represented here.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go to Pat Healy with the Laker. Go ahead, Pat.
Hi, this question is for Premier Houston and Mayor Savage. As the fire started, it seemed the communication response to the wildfires was non-existent. Outside of a citizen on Twitter posting updates on the fires, there really was no source of information for residents. Why did this happen, and what can be improved going forward?
Yeah, thank you, Pat. Obviously, you know, communicating information to residents is critical. There's been a couple questions about that today, and certainly we're hearing from people. But what I would say is these fires started and moved very, very quickly. So you know, the folks on the ground are trying to spot the fire, hear about the fire, assess the fire, respond to the fire, and inform people. There's a lot happening. We'll always look for ways that we can kind of improve the communication. But you know, the municipality was kind of, I thought, pretty quick to get stuff out there. We always want to make sure we get it further. Same with the province. We stood up a website last night. We'll continue to look for ways to get information out to citizens. It's critical that people know what's happening and what to expect in the coming days. But there's a lot of uncertainty around these fires in general, just because of the speed that they're moving. So what we would say is we would do the best we can to get information out there. We do, you know, rely on Nova Scotians to help get it out there through social media, and I think there was quite a bit of that happening as well. But we need to make sure it's accurate information, and in the very beginning, it's always going to be a bit of a challenge, but people are doing the very best they can.
Pat, do you have a follow-up? Oh, sorry, Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. So 24 hours ago, very few Nova Scotians knew that we had a fire in Halifax. They may have known about the one in Shelburne. And the focus last evening was on firefighting, on getting firefighting people where they need to be, and also evacuating people using RCMP and other means to get people out of their homes. The second thing is, information is one thing. Accurate information is a really important part of this as well. And you know, you can't just start throwing out what you hear. It has to be accurate information from good sources. And I think that our fighters, working with the other agencies and with our communications people, have done a pretty good job on getting that out and getting information out that people can use through a variety of means. But you know, we will always look at this after the fact, as we did with Fiona, as we did with Dorian, as we do with snowstorms, and see what things might be able to be done better.
Thank you, Mayor. Pat, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I do. Speaking about telecommunications, I have heard from a few people who were inside the evacuation zone that did not get the emergency alerts because they are with Kudo or Public Mobile. How can that be improved so that they get the alerts?
Yeah, thanks for Pat, and obviously the management of the emergency alert system is always something that is top of mind in this province and others for sure. So we know that when these alerts go out, you know, there'll be some people who live in Nova Scotia but maybe have a phone with an area code from another province. So we worry about them getting the alert, but you're identifying maybe those that are on a specific carrier. We'll talk to the folks about how we can improve that, because the emergency alert system and the accuracy and the completeness of the alerts going out is absolutely critical. So we want to do everything we can to get that get that right. So we'll take that one away, Pat. Thank you for that.
Okay, next we'll go to Steve McKinley with the Toronto Star. Go ahead, Steve.
Hi there. Not sure who to direct this question to exactly, but there are a lot of people today wondering what's happened to their houses, when they can get back and see it, see what's happened. I know that it's early in the ball game, and we can't have a fixed timeline. But in your experience, are we talking about days? Are we talking about a week or two? Are we talking about months? Can you give us some kind of a ballpark idea?
As the Premier's indicated, and as we all feel, the stress on people who have been evacuated from their homes and their neighborhoods and don't know what is becoming of their house is a terrifying circumstance. So today, the first job of Halifax Fire and Emergency has been to fight the fire. But they have started to go back into neighborhoods to start to survey the damage where they have the opportunity to. And it's a tough message, but we have to be sure that people don't go back into the evacuated areas. A fire that can seem to be out in weather like this can flare up very quickly. And so people have to allow the folks who have experience to do this. And there will be some tough conversations. And those will have to happen as quickly as they possibly can. And we all recognize the stress that people are going through, and we'll do whatever we can to alleviate that.
Steve, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, it's kind of well, first of all, I just wanted to find out, do we have any ballpark numbers for evacuations from Shelburne County and communities, people or communities?
Okay, yeah, Minister West.
Yes, I understand that the evacuations are 400 plus from Shelburne County and continuing to grow as the areas of evacuation are even early this afternoon continuing to increase as well.
Thank you.
Okay, that is all the time we have. Thank you to our participants, and thank you for those who have joined us here both in the room and online. Please stay safe, everyone.